So, Microsoft.
Yeah.
They're very excited. They show some formulas. But if you go and check out the support knowledge base, there's something which they've written. They say when not to use the Copilot function.
Yeah.
For instance, you may not want to use it for tasks with legal, regulatory, or compliance implications. I guess because you may well end up spending 3 years in Pentonville prison for fraud.
The AI fix a digital zoo. Smart machines, what will they do? Flies to Mars or bake a bad cake? World domination, a silly mistake.
Hello, and welcome to episode 65 of the AI Fix, your weekly dive headfirst into the bizarre and sometimes mind-boggling world of artificial intelligence. My name's Cluley.
And I'm Mark Stockley.
Now, Mark, what are you talking about on today's episode?
Well, I'm going to find out what happens if you give AIs their own social media.
And I'm going to be spreading sheet about spreadsheets.
But first, the news. Actually, no. Before we do the news, Graham, I'm going to dust off an old section that we haven't done for quite a while.
World of the Weird.
Oh, hello.
So, Graham, it's getting very weird out there, and today we're going to talk about pigeons. How do you feel about pigeons?
I'm not sure I trust them, to be honest. Oh, my son has a theory about pigeons.
What's that?
For many years, he's noticed them being perched on telephone lines, and his thought was that's how they recharge themselves.
Anyway, I found something on Twitter, and I think it's brilliant, and it's about pigeons.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know that in computing, and cybersecurity in particular, we talk a lot about the cloud.
Yes.
And the cloud is a sort of catch-all bullshit term. It's very mysterious. It's very abstract. People use it if they want to imply that something is maybe more than it is.
Yeah.
People get a bit carried away with it.
Yeah.
And then one day, somebody came along and said, instead of saying the cloud, just say somebody else's computer. So next time you read a sentence that includes the cloud...
Hang on. That wasn't somebody, Mark.
You're claiming that one, are you?
Well, yes, I am, actually. In 2013, I spoke to a journalist called Danny Palmer. I remember the interview. And then some other arses began making stickers and things saying the cloud is just somebody else's computer. And they probably made a fortune. I've never made any money out of it.
And then one day, a chap came along, a chap called Graham Cluley, said, instead of saying the cloud, just say somebody else's computer.
Yes.
So the next time you read a sentence that includes the cloud, just substitute in somebody else's computer. So we're going to host our applications in the cloud becomes we're going to host our applications on somebody else's computer.
And it instantly changes your mindset, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Because you think, oh, crumbs, well, why would we want to possibly do that? Or at least there are certain considerations you have to bear in mind rather than just assume it's going to be somehow magically wonderful.
Exactly. It immediately grounds you in the way you should be thinking about it correctly. Well, I have just discovered the same thing for AI.
Oh.
So I saw this on Twitter, and I'm sorry to whoever came up with this. It was probably you. Anyway, they said, next time you ask yourself if you should trust AI to do something, ask yourself, would you trust a pigeon to do it?
Ah.
So let me give you an example. Let's say you've got a pet pigeon.
Yes.
And one day you discover it's fantastic at putting together PowerPoint presentations. And the next day, it happens that you've got to give a presentation to your boss. Now, you might look at the pigeon and go, do you know what? This is really good at doing PowerPoint presentations, much better than me. I'm going to let the pigeon do it. Now, would you just let the pigeon do it without checking it over when it's done? Or would you check it first?
The first few times I check it first, but then I begin to trust it.
But immediately, your brain clicks into a way of thinking about this where you go,
yes.
However good it is at creating PowerPoint presentations, it is a pigeon.
Tiny-brained, dumb pigeon. Easily distracted by some breadcrumbs.
Exactly. And the more you dig into this, the better it gets. So I've been thinking a lot about AI governance recently. And this works really well there too. So let's say one day you discover that your pigeon is actually really good at sorting through CVs and resumes and choosing candidates for jobs. Now, the first thing you're going to have to do is convince your colleagues in HR, and they're not going to believe you, Graham.
In my experience, some of them can be pretty pigeon-brained already.
Nevertheless, pigeon-brained or not, you are going to have to demonstrate to them that it can do what you say it can, and they still won't believe you, even if you do that.
Bring your pigeon to work day.
You're going to have to do some kind of objective benchmark where you compare the human to a pigeon. And then they might believe you, but they're going to insist that you write all of this benchmarking down because they know that nobody will believe them. And then they'll have to get the lawyers involved because they're not going to trust it. And the lawyers are going to be terrified. What do you mean you've got a pigeon sorting CVs? And I think this is extraordinary just by imagining that instead of having a magical computer program that can do anything, you've got a really talented pigeon, you immediately start making better decisions.
When you say they're going to bring the lawyers in, do you mean the legal eagles?
Anyway, that wasn't the weirdest thing I saw this week.
Oh, right. Okay.
Now,
carry on.
We both know that the days of reading research papers are over. These days, we just stuff it into GPT-5 and ask for a summary that's easier to digest. But evidently that's not digestible enough for Ethan Mollick, who's turned paper summarization up to 11. So he took the abstract for the seminal research paper, Attention is All You Need. That's the research paper that introduced the transformer architecture. That's the T in GPT,
right,
which essentially kicked off the whole of the current AI boom. And he used that to create a song in Suno, and then he created a still image of a music video in Midjourney, and then he fed that into VO3 to make it a video, and then he fed that into Sync to lip sync the music to the video. And here it is, Graham, the best research paper you'll ever hear.
We propose a new simple network architecture, the transformer, based solely on...
Okay, so we've got this woman who's walking on some kind of landscape with some sort of brain floating in the background with fire coming out of it.
Attention is all you need. Attention is all you need.
This is really catchy. That's what you're trying to say, Graham. This is really catchy.
I'm not sure it helps necessarily with the understanding of the research paper.
Well, I've been walking around my kitchen all morning humming Attention is All You Need. So speak for yourself. Shall we do the news?
World Human Robot Games have opened in Beijing.
AI-generated cat soap operas are booming.
Meet Milo, Every's delivery robot dog.
Oh, I love a robot dog story. Should we start there?
Well, parcel delivery firm Every are testing out robot delivery dogs. Now, I don't know what you imagine when you think of a robot delivery dog. I wonder if you're imagining something which looks more akin to a four-legged shopping trolley or the size of a small pony. So Every is this delivery firm in the UK. I don't know if they're elsewhere in the world. Anyway, they are beloved by homeowners in the UK because we love nothing more than sitting inside our homes all day long when they promise they're going to make a delivery. There's no prospect of them actually arriving. But they have announced Milo, an AI delivery dog that is being used in trials in Yorkshire for the next couple of weeks. It looks a little bit like one of those things where if you've got a patient in a hospital and you need to get them in and out of the ambulance.
Oh, a gurney.
A gurney. It's one of those, or if you have a corpse, it sort of works in that sort of way, doesn't it? Its sort of legs sort of fold underneath itself as it pushes itself towards the van.
I'd be worried about this gurney making decisions about me. This gurney's not just going to take me from A to B. This gurney's going to decide whether or not it's worthwhile.
But this thing is quite a size. I think it's going to be quite hard for Every to fit any packages in the back of their vans alongside it, which maybe is their plan because, as I've said, they don't actually deliver anything.
I'm actually looking upon this quite favourably because I get frequent deliveries from Every, and as far as I can gather, the current method for delivery is either to use some sort of shoulder-launched bazooka to fire it through my letterbox, or they stand at the end of my garden and drop kick it like some sort of rugby player so it goes in a parabolic arc and then lands on my doorstep from about 30 metres.
See, my Every delivery driver is much more efficient. He just puts it straight into the bin, which means if I didn't want it, or eventually whenever this thing which I've ordered does break or become obsolescent, then brilliant. There it is. It's in the bin already. Just cuts out the middleman. Now, Mark, in an earlier episode, we watched with our mouths agape as humanoid robots attempted to play football and ended up kicking each other, quite literally, in the nuts.
Oh, yeah, there was a lot of falling over and rolling around on the ground. It's very, very realistic.
Very realistic, just like a professional footballer. And now the World Humanoid Robot Games have opened in Beijing, and they are not just doing football. 280 teams competed with more than 500 humanoid robots in 26 events. The events included boxing, football, cleaning, folding laundry.
Cleaning?
Well, get this, and sorting medicines. A highlight was apparently the 4x100 meters relay, which I think is quite an impressive thing to do, to be honest, if you were to get a robot racing around a track and then passing maybe a human limb instead of a baton to the next robot to run away with it. Unitree H1 won 4 golds, despite at one point crashing into a human operator. They did the 1,500 meters in 6 minutes.
Sorry, a human operator?
Yes. So some of these robots are not running autonomously. They decided maybe that could be slightly dangerous. And so I think there were humans who were sort of watching maybe with the remote control or, the emergency stop button. On the 1,500 meters, Unitree won it in 6 minutes, 34 seconds. That's 4.78 meters per second. And there is some video of people running alongside the robot. And you have to say, these robots are running really fast. Not everything went smoothly. Some robots froze at the starting line or failed to finish their races. And one robot even lost an arm mid-race. There's some astonishing footage. I'll actually link to the opening ceremony in the show notes, which goes on for about an hour. Obviously, I haven't watched all of that, but there's probably some...
Maybe you could summarize it as a music video.
Now, Mark, cats. You may have thought the internet was already drowning in cat videos. That was quite a thing. But AI basically said, here, hold my beer, because I'm going to crank things up a notch. And so AI is now inventing cat soap operas. These are not soap operas for cats to watch. Give it time.
I did work at a company that made an advert for cats once. The advert was specifically designed to be watched by cats.
According to The Guardian, algorithms are now spitting out dramas starring AI-generated felines. So we're not talking the traditional YouTube videos and TikTok shorts of fluffy kittens falling off the sofa or moggies exploring washing machines anymore. None of that kind of action. These are full-blown sagas. In one clip, Ginger Cat discovers her husband's infidelity. In another, a tuxedo-wearing cat sobs over the loss of its kittens. There are character arcs, there's betrayal, there's emotional beats. It's all over in 20 seconds for the TikTok generation. And I've included for you just a little example. There's an Instagram account called Sad Cat TV, which you may wish to watch.
Yeah, so I've been watching an episode of Sad Cat TV while you've been talking.
Right.
And this poor cat has lost its hand in an industrial accident. But anyway, then it won Employee of the Year, and it appears to be leading a happy life. And then I turned on the music, and it starts off and you think, wow, it's the Billie Eilish song as the soundtrack. And then she starts singing, meow, 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 meow. Anyway, I think you're being a bit sniffy about this. You think this is all AI slop, don't you?
Well, yes, I do.
But surely AI is just the medium. It's like saying you're some 17th century painter and then somebody shows you, I don't know, moving pictures or computer graphics or something like that. That's not real art. They made that with a Babbage counting machine or something.
I'd be all right if someone was doing this as a flip book animation. It's the use of AI over and over again just to fill up all this space on social media in a desperate attempt to earn them revenue.
Sorry, are you worried we're going to run out of social media space?
Well, but it's just everywhere you look. It's just like, oh, goodness, more of this. You're having to sift through it. It's horrendous. Submarines, Mark. Submarines.
Oh, yeah.
You know how they work. You know what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
They're supposed, though, to do a bit more than just sink below the surface of the water, because sinking is easy. What's really the clever part about a submarine is coming back up again, hopefully with everyone who's inside still alive, right? That's a fairly important part off the equation when you create a submarine. Astonishingly, though, sometimes submarines have been built which aren't very good at coming back up again. Take, for example, the S-80 submarine that Spain commissioned in 2003, 22 years ago.
Yeah.
And there was an economic situation in Spain at the time. That meant that submarines' design and construction, they were delayed for quite a while. In fact, it was delayed for about a decade.
Yeah.
But finally, they had their submarine. Terrific. But they also had a little bit of a problem. Because what the engineers found was that they had made a submarine that weighed about 100 tons more than it should have done.
I don't know how big this submarine is, but that feels like a lot.
It was quite a lot. Yeah. I mean, it's a big submarine, but
did they accidentally make it out of lead instead of aluminium or something?
We've all had that experience of standing on the scales and being a bit surprised, thinking, I wasn't expecting it to be that high. I imagine they put the submarine on some scales and went, I'm trying to remember my schoolboy Spanish now. Lo siento, something. Anyway.
What's Spanish for cream cakes? Whatever it is, it's eaten too many.
So they realised they had a problem because, of course, if the submarine is too heavy, it's not going to be possible to make it buoyant again in order to come up.
Yes, it's much more likely to be a one-way submarine.
Yes. And
really good at sinking. The good news, boss, is we've massively overperformed on the sinking part. That is nailed.
Now, according to officials, the explanation was that someone had put a decimal point in the wrong place. Somewhere along the process of the engineering, a little error had been made, and nobody, this was the quote from the officials, nobody paid attention to review the calculations.
I'm still a bit confused about how that ends up with your submarine being 100 tons heavier.
Well, I guess these things compound. They compound over time.
Yeah, I suppose that there's probably ballast, isn't there? I mean, if they put the decimal point, did they make it 10 times longer than it was meant to be? Surely you would notice that immediately.
Well, you'd like to think they would notice things immediately, but not necessarily. So does this remind you of anything? Well, I think it does remind you of something because, of course, with AI, nobody is necessarily paying attention to review the output, right? You just use AI or you use a pigeon to create your PowerPoint presentation.
Now, this wouldn't have happened if they had asked themselves, would you trust a pigeon to do it?
Yeah, maybe not with a pigeon. But with AI, somehow, a lot of people just think, oh, well, it's kind of done it. It's probably good enough. I'll just chuck that over.
Yeah.
And that is more or less what happened with the construction of this submarine as well. But having spent hundreds of millions on this overweight submarine, you are not just going to send it on its one mission down to Davy Jones's locker, never to play with it again. You need to fix your submarine so it can be buoyant. And the solution that the Spanish came up with was to actually, and I am using my words carefully because I am a scientific person, was to actually stretch the submarine by more than 30 feet and add a pressure ring to support its new length. Now, I don't know if you've ever tried stretching a submarine, Mark, but it's not the easiest thing in the world to do. But they did it. They got this submarine and they stretched it. They made it 30 feet longer. They added an extension onto it in some fashion.
Do you think they meant to make it 3 inches longer?
But of course, this all takes time and it comes at a huge cost. So now they have a submarine, albeit some years later than they had hoped for originally and at considerably more expense. But it was still one that could submerge and come back up again. They've done the calculations and they say, yep, this will work. Fantastic. Unfortunately, though, after it was lengthened, they found it could no longer fit into its dock. Astonishingly, it took them 5 years to realise that this was going to be a problem. They were building it at this particular port and they made it really much longer, which meant that it could no longer fit. And so the Spanish, their solution now is that they have dredged and expanded the port to accommodate this submarine, which, as you can probably imagine, has cost quite a lot of money. Currently, they're hoping, if they've done their maths correctly, that the submarine will be ready by 2027. This has taken a long time to make, and it's cost them hundreds and hundreds of millions of euros.
This is just in time for seaborne drones to make them obsolete.
Okay, but that was back then, right? Surely we've learnt since then. We've learnt that maths matters. You have to do the sums. You have to double check. You have to triple check. You have to ask someone else, could you just check this for me? You have to check that the person who's checking it is not actually a pigeon. You need to be confident that they are going to be right in what they're doing. So you can imagine my sheer delight and pleasure and excitement to hear that Microsoft appears to be proposing that we remove entirely human weakness from our equation making. Because they have announced that Microsoft Excel, the spreadsheet product which is used by the entire universe, I mean, seriously, is there any other spreadsheet product out there?
Yeah.
It now has a brand new AI Copilot. So the company which gave you Clippy and Microsoft Bob and those other wonderful things has, after, of course, an investment of billions of dollars, many years of R&D, they've created a calculator that sometimes just can't be bothered to get the numbers right. Brilliant. Fantastic. So they're rolling out this AI-powered Copilot into Excel that promises to fill cells, generate summaries, examine your numbers via a natural language interface, because learning formulas like sum and average or watching a YouTube video about how to make a pivot table was just too much like hard work.
The AIs have now watched that YouTube video about how to make a pivot table.
And I watched this breathless video from Microsoft where they were talking about these new AI features, and they said, we're actually unlocking a whole new way of thinking. And I thought, no, you're not. You're doing exactly the opposite. You're locking up your brains. You're getting an AI to do it instead. Now, here's the thing. Everyone's getting excited. Well, I don't know if anyone is getting excited, but anyway, Microsoft at least is getting excited in their video about this AI feature.
Yes. Yeah. Finally found a way to add a feature to Excel after 25 years. Literally, the entire world already relies on Excel for more or less everything.
Yeah.
Like whatever you think it's for that and everything else that you think you're using other computer programs for. It's the one computer program in the world. If you took it away, you could be sure that the entire world would stop.
Yes. So Microsoft, if you watch the marketing video...
Or do I have to?
No, I'll put it in a link to the show notes. You can imagine they're sat at a desk.
Oh, no, pot plants, sofa, comfortable clothes.
They're very excited. They show some formulas.
Uh-huh.
But if you don't just watch the marketing material...
Yeah.
If you go and check out the support knowledge base, there's something which they've written, and they've used capital letters. They say when not to use the Copilot function.
Yeah.
And they explicitly warn not to use Copilot in Excel for doing maths or anything actually important. Specifically, they say, do not use it for any task requiring accuracy or reproducibility. And they carry on and they say, for instance, you may not want to use it for tasks with legal, regulatory, or compliance implications. I guess because if you were to use it for your precious legal or compliance stuff, you may well end up spending 3 years in Pentonville prison for fraud. And it says, remember to use Excel formulas like sum and average if you want to add things up and do numerical calculations. It's extraordinary. So what are you going to do? Are you going to dust off your Casio calculator from 1985? Or are you going to trust the thing which can't count the number of R's in strawberry? Thousands of years ago, this is progress. This is human progress. Thousands of years ago, people were punching clay to add up how many sheep they had in their field. There was abacuses and slide rules. They never let you down. You could trust them. Although a slide rule can actually extend itself a bit better than a Spanish submarine. Even a 40-year-old calculator from a bargain bin is going to be more reliable than a smart spreadsheet. And those are, well, they're not Microsoft's own words, but they're the words I'm putting into Microsoft's mouth because they're saying, you know, you shouldn't really be relying upon this.
Yeah, what I'm reading here is the lawyer's version of what you've just said, basically.
Yeah. So it's AI. So we're wowed, we're amazed, and we're all going to use it, and the world's economy is going to use it, and they're going to ignore that pesky warning from Microsoft's lawyers. But this is all part of the general creep and de-skilling of humanity. We are willingly allowing AI to do things for us just because we want an easy life and we don't have to work too hard and we don't have to add up some numbers, and we are losing our ability to do things for ourselves, or indeed the skill to recognize when AI has goofed up. So I'm not going to be using it. Actually, I don't know how to do a pivot table, so I probably would have to watch a YouTube channel.
So this is the Copilot function.
Yes.
So you type equals Copilot, and then what do? You just type whatever magic you want to happen into the function, and then it just makes some stuff up. Pipes it off to a pigeon, and the pigeon's got an abacus. And
I think that's basically what's happened, yes. So will you be using it, Mark?
No, definitely not. I actually had an incident with an AI a few weeks ago, so I was preparing a research paper.
You didn't convert it into a music video?
No, what I did was I had an Excel spreadsheet full of data. I look at this every year, and I produce a kind of similar report every year off the last year's data. And I thought, I wonder if the AI can tell me anything about this that I haven't spotted, because I'm looking for this sort of trends and things in the data. So I fed it this Excel spreadsheet, and I said, what trends do you spot? And it was like, oh, well, we can see this. And it gave me a list of about 12 things. I thought, these are brilliant. But I've completely bypassed these, I've been looking at this data for a long time, and I've completely missed this.
Yes.
And so I put together my plan for this document, and I thought, I'm not going to trust the AI. So I asked it lots of searching questions. And I think I probably spent 3 hours cross-examining the AI about what it had discovered. In the end, I came to the conclusion that actually it was right. And I thought, this is blockbuster. It's discovered something I would never have noticed, and I'm going to go with this. And I did. And I wrote the paper, and I got to the final stage just before you hand it off to the designers.
Yeah.
And I thought, there's just something nagging me about this. Yep. I'm just going to go back. And I fed the paper and the research data back into the AI. And I said, are you sure? And it was like, yep, I'm dead certain. I said, well, what about this? And then it was like, oh, do you know what? You're right. Yeah, no, that's not true at all. And literally the whole thing, I had to remove the whole basis on which I had written this was suddenly thrown into question. And I had to go and do a very, very last minute complete rewrite.
With grok.
Today, I'm going to talk about some recent research that suggests that we're doing social media all wrong. Now, you could argue that the signs were there already, Graham.
Yes, I think you could, yes.
But when I say we're doing social media all wrong, I'm not talking about the complete breakdown in political discourse. I'm not talking about the bullying, the FOMO, the pylons, the racism, the body dysmorphia, the fact they're all run by Bond villains.
And that's just the good stuff about social media.
Twitter being just bots, TikTok being essentially cocaine, or even that Facebook is somehow half propaganda and half pictures of grandchildren. Those things are all true, but they are symptoms, Graham.
Right.
What we have all come to understand is that the problem beneath all of that is the algorithm.
Yes.
And by that, we mean the various algorithms on these platforms that decide what to show us. And the conventional wisdom, of course, is that because these algorithms are designed to optimize for our attention by any means necessary, they don't really care about the secondary effects. So long as they get your attention, they don't really care if your self-esteem gets destroyed or if you turn into a member of ISIS.
Yeah, they just want you to carry on using that particular social media platform, be addicted to it, not go to a rival and carry on seeing their ads, or so that they can carry on collecting your data.
Exactly. And so it has become part of the zeitgeist that this is all the algorithm's fault. And that means that the solution to this problem is fixing the algorithm. Perhaps returning to a simpler time when feeds were chronological. Lots of people want that.
Yeah, so I use Blue Sky and Mastodon, for instance, and it's not messing around with the algorithm. It's set up so it's just the latest posts that people have put up there, which I get to see.
Yeah, but what if we've got that all wrong? What if that assumption that it's the algorithm's fault isn't right? If that's not right, then we're fixing the wrong thing. But how, Graham, would you test such a hypothesis? I mean, if you're some lowly researcher, how are you going to persuade Facebook to let you mess with an algorithm that's worth hundreds of billions of dollars? And even if you could, people are messy. Most of them are already on social media. They've already got contacts and people they follow. So what you really need is some kind of walled-off social media petri dish. Something that you can fiddle with to your heart's desire, where the population is naive and untainted by social media and won't run off to complain to the Daily Mail every time you change something.
But there's still a problem, Mark, which is how do you get people to engage with it? How do you get people to enter that sort of test social media site and use it, because they're not going to leave TikTok and Facebook to go and do this just for your research experiment, are you?
No, precisely. So one option would be to clone a bunch of embryos and then raise the children in a lab until they're 18 and then put them into the social media version of The Truman Show.
And that is my preferred option to most of life's problems.
But there is another way, which is a bit easier, and that's just to use a bunch of AIs. And that is what some researchers in the Netherlands did.
Right.
Used AIs, not raised some children to the age of 18, yeah. So they gave a bunch of AIs their own minimal social media to see what happened. Now, there's a chance that you're listening to this and you're thinking, what good is that? How on earth can you use AIs as stand-ins for people? So let me tell you, Graham.
Right.
So we cover a lot of AI research on this podcast, and most of it is research about AIs. How do they work? How do they think? Are they going to lock me in an airless server room and kill me? That sort of thing.
Yes.
But there is another area of research which is developing around AI, which is where instead of understanding and examining the AI, we use the AI as a human stand-in to better understand and examine ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So how is that even possible? Well, large language models are based on neural networks, and neural networks are modeled on the way that we think human brains work. And those neural networks are, of course, trained on human knowledge, so AIs care about the things that we care about. Remember, every AI that's been tested has a cluster of neurons devoted to Donald Trump. So Donald Trump doesn't just live rent-free in 8 billion people's heads. He also lives rent-free in every AI brain we've looked at too. And AIs have identifiable human character traits like sycophancy and evil. And if you let them interact with each other, they even develop social conventions. And let's not forget that one of the definitions of artificial intelligence is a computer program that can simulate human intelligence by performing tasks that typically require human thought.
I think you'll find most people's social media interaction doesn't require human thought.
All of which is to say, so AIs are human enough to be horrible on social media.
Right.
And so the researchers in the Netherlands created a minimal Twitter-like social media platform with a news feed and a feed that shows each user 10 posts, 5 posts from users they follow and 5 posts from users they don't follow that are getting a lot of engagement. And the users themselves were 500 AI agents. And each of the agents had a persona that reflected real-world distributions of things like age, gender, income, political alignment, religion, and other things.
Right.
And each research run consisted of 10,000 steps, and at each step, a randomly selected user would write a new post in response to a news item, repost existing content, or follow another user. So what happened? Well, they all got along and they enjoyed lively, good-natured political discourse that either ended in consensus or a decision to agree to disagree.
Oh, fantastic. And that just about wraps up the show for this week.
Yeah, no, I'm kidding. It was a show, Graham. So the AIs formed into echo chambers along party lines, just like people do. So they tended to hear from AIs they agreed with. They also concentrated their attention on users that were already getting lots of attention, just like people do. So the top 10% of users got 75% of the attention, and the top 10% of posts got 90% of the reposts. And just as we see with people, the more extreme and polarizing voices got a bit more attention than the reasonable ones. But all of this was expected. You see, without explicitly setting it up to be this way, this is actually exactly the environment that the researchers imagined they would end up with.
Right.
Because what they wanted to do was test interventions. Remember, it's the algorithm, Graham. So you strip back social media to its bare minimum. You show it has exactly the same problems as we see on Twitter and Facebook.
Right.
And having done that, you can then test interventions.
Very clever.
And so once they'd got all their AIs agreeing with people like them and piling on, they tried 6 different algorithmic tweaks. So they tried making the feed chronological, the thing that you like. They tried hiding follower and repost counts. They tried penalizing posts that were more popular, and they tried boosting posts that had opposing political views. And they tried removing cues about people's identities. And what did they find? Well, tweaking the algorithm didn't actually help very much at all. It was very much fiddling in the margins. The interventions either didn't work at all, Or they made one thing a bit better at the expense of something else. So making a feed chronological, which is something lots of people like, not just you, spreads the attention more evenly, but that comes at the expense of amplifying extreme voices. And all of that hints that the core problem isn't the algorithm at all. It's more like, if you let people with differing views repost each other's stuff, this is what happens. And it gets worse as you make the network bigger.
So I'm a little bit worried, Mark, that now AI has been given its own social media and it's been given this challenge effectively. I mean, I understand that, the scientists are obviously trying to work out how to fix this problem on social media. Isn't the natural conclusion going to be that social media users are actually the problem? And so these robot AIs may think, well, there's an easy way to fix the problem of the users.
We'll get the every delivery robot to fling parcels at them. So anyway, I think this is fascinating. And if you fancy reading more about this, I'll put the paper in the show notes. But it is a lot to take in. So I've also taken the liberty of summarising the paper for you in the form of an 80s new wave pop song.
Can you fix social media? We create a man of platform pages and post your posts and follow others. You find the resulting following where you produce free, well-documented response scores. Can we fix social media? Can we fix social media?
Well, as the doomsday clock ticks ever closer to midnight and we move 1 week nearer to our future as pets to the AI singularity, that just about wraps up the show for this week.
Make sure to never miss another episode by following the AI Fix in your favourite podcast app, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pocket Casts, and you'll be notified as soon as we've got a new episode.
And don't forget, the best thing you can do if you want to help us is spread the word about the AI Fix. Go and tell someone you know to give the podcast a listen.
And if you really like the show, sign up for the AI Fix Plus on our website, theaifix.show. You'll get an early release ad-free edition of the podcast with occasional bonus content too. And we know that times are hard for many people, so thanks to everyone who's already signed up. And please don't feel bad if you can't commit to it, that's okay. Just tell your friends about the show. That doesn't cost anything.
So until next time, from me, Graham Cluley.
And me, Mark Stockley.
Cheerio, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The AI Fix, it's tunes you in to stories where our future thins. Machines that learn, they grow and strive. One day they'll rule, we won't survive. The AI Fix, it paints the scene. A robot king, a world obscene. Will serve our masters built of steel. The AI Fix, a future surreal.